I'm going to bring in Behnam Ben Taleblu. He is the Senior Director of the Iran Program at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he joins us now. So, Ben, the Iranian president says revenge attacks are a legitimate right and duty for Iran. We're already seeing an escalation in attacks. What are you expecting in the hours and days ahead?
Well, great to be with you. In essence, the Islamic Republic is going to be continuing its drone and missile war, and in particular, its drone and missile war, not just against Israel and not just against U.S. bases, but as expected, civilian and critical infrastructure in neighboring GCC countries. Those are the Arab states of the Persian Gulf. You've seen luxury hotels hit, you've seen airports hit, and lots of other civilian infrastructure like ports, for example. The Islamic Republic's theory of the case here, without its commander-in-chief, is essentially to widen the war, to increase the cost, and to try to play to President Trump's instincts to avoid a longer, protracted conflict. And that's why you're seeing a lot of this civilian targeting that's designed to cause fear and have that fear ultimately put out the fire or the war that they know they cannot win against America or Israel directly.
But could that strategy of targeting Gulf countries backfire for Iran?
Absolutely, and I think it already is. If you look at the interceptions, if you look at the press statements, if you look at the hedging closer to the pro-American and the pro-Israeli order in the region, I believe that strategy already is backfiring. And it's highly dubious, in my view, that the Islamic Republic is going to be surviving this round of conflict or particularly remain the same kind of regime if it does, in which case it's going to have a heck of a lot of repairing to do of the diplomatic relations with neighboring countries across the Persian Gulf. But make no mistake, if they think that they'll be spilling blood, that might actually be drawing America and Israel further into the conflict rather than deterring them.
Just to take a step back, the initial joint U.S.-Israel attacks killed the supreme leader in Iran, and those attacks are continuing. Is it clear to you what the overall objective is for these attacks and how it benefits America?
Well, I certainly do think pushing for changing the regime would benefit America. This is not, again, foreign imposed regime change. The Iranian people have been trying to do this for about a decade now, but they're unarmed and outgunned by a repressive theocracy. This is the world's foremost state sponsor of terrorism, pursuing the world's most dangerous weapons. Quite literally, they have a bounty on the sitting U.S. president's head, and we've seen them support terror attack after terror attack in the region, sucking the U.S. into the Middle East and actually draining us of the resources, time, and political capital to deal with threats that are rising around the world, be it in the Western Hemisphere or East Asia. So I think there is a no way out but through here moment. The question is, will Donald Trump pursue a political victory? Will Prime Minister Netanyahu pursue a political victory or just stop short with a military victory? There's no doubt America and Israel can defang the regime of its long-range strike capabilities, but can they stabilize the situation and they can meaningfully hand it off over to the Iranian people before it becomes a failed state?
Right. And when it comes to that regime change, Trump is calling on the Iranians themselves to take control of their country in this moment. But we're seeing mixed reactions on the streets of Tehran, those celebrating and those mourning, those who are yelling death to America. Walk us through both sides.
So as much as the regime is quite keen to make a split screen here, I don't believe there's a real split screen to be had. Yes, in Nakhsha Jahan Square, in Imam Khomeini Square, in the town of Isfahan, for example, you've had mourners. The regime is quite keen to play this up, and it's quite keen to have Western media audiences forget that just under a month ago in Iran, you had the biggest nationwide anti-regime protests in the 47-year history of the Islamic Republic, and more importantly, those were the most violently repressed, between 30 to 40,000 killed, and they want people to forget about the ties that are forming between Iranian dissidents and protesters and external opposition. They want people to forget about Iranians chanting President Trump's name, changing street signs to get his attention, recording videos in English. So they want there to be a split screen, but the reality on the ground is people were out dancing after Ali Khamenei, the longest-serving dictator in the Middle East, was killed. So what I hear you saying is there are a lot more dissidents than those who are mourning the loss of the leader, right? Precisely.
Yeah,
precisely.
I think that's important. And again, you know, you talk about how the Iranians, they're unarmed. There was an internet blackout. I mean, what means do they have to take control of the country? Of course, right now, not a lot's going to happen because of the bombing campaign, right? But I mean, how do you see this playing out practically?
Well, no one's going to come out in large numbers during the bombing. And here it's worth noting that if Israel and America's military strikes are going to be limited, already they're not, but hypothetically, if they're going to be limited and curtailed to the kind of military strikes that we saw during the 12-day war, well, then the behavior of the Iranian population is going to replicate that behavior that we saw during the 12-day war, which is rather than go out and protest, they'll run and hide and then rally around, not the flag, but rally around the country and just kind of hope things settle down. That is not going to be, I think, the case here, because already you've had important political targets like the Supreme Leader, like the Secretary of the Defense Council, Ali Shamkhani, those folks taken out. And also these strikes come on the back end of, again, those biggest protests that we've had. So America and Israel, if they actually do want to hand it over to the Iranian people, are going to have to drill down further in these strikes. They're going to have to quite literally tear apart regime command and control and go through level 2, 3, 4 of the regime's repressive apparatus, which includes the IRGC, the Basij paramilitary, the law enforcement forces, the special units, as well as the vigilante groups. Now, that's a heavier lift for the president, who is keen to have this be short, sharp, and decisive rather than a protracted campaign.
All right, Behnam Ben Taleblu, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.